delete. And then before you know it, you delete everything that you wrote yesterday. And now you're frustrated because you deleted the stuff that you wrote and you have nothing to show for from today. Editing while writing will delay your process. Feedback is going to be your key to success. Is it worth it? And if you knew that you had a guaranteed solution that would get you done in a way that you can't do right now, would $6,000 be worth the investment so that you can reclaim spending any more money in tuition? The dissertation process is a team sport. Let's have a real moment. The dissertation journey isn't easy, and pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone. However, there are some brutal truths that as a doctoral student who's writing their dissertation, you need to know, and I want to share with you. And these 5 truths that I'm going to share in this video are ones that no doctoral program would tell you, but it will drastically change how you navigate the dissertation process. So make sure that you tune in, and especially number 5, because that is one of the most important that you have to recognize and get a hold of right now so that you can finish your dissertation quickly. My name is Dr. Ron Goings. I'm founder of Done Dissertation, and our goal at Done Dissertation is to help you write and defend your dissertation in record time. If you're someone who's looking for support and need help, today's episode is sponsored by the Done Dissertation Velocity Coaching Program. You can learn more about our program and apply to work with us by going to www.velocitydissertation.com. And again, we're for folks who want to finish their dissertation now and are looking for a proven solution and strategy in order to finish quickly. Now, let's get into today's episode. It's just real talk. I just had a couple of notes, just things I've seen in the landscape doing some presentations and workshops at universities and questions I've been getting from doctoral students. And I want to lay out these 5 truths that I think if you understand these, it will save you a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of energy. So truth number 1 with the dissertation process is that investment needs to be your goal over inaction. And what I mean by investment is investment in your time, investment in your energy, investment possibly in your financial resources, in yourself is much better use than being in staying with inaction. Here's why. Because we see a lot of students who are ABD, and it's not because they don't have the skill set, not because they don't have the intellect, but a lot of times it's because of inaction. And what ends up happening, as we've seen through with doctoral students, is that, and this may be your case, that you've been writing and you went through coursework easy, right? Easy breezy. I got through the coursework. I was, getting A's on my classes. And then you recognize when you got to this dissertation that something shifted. And that shift was sometimes the expectation that's placed on your work, how you're thinking through it, how you're writing about what you're doing in your dissertation. So something changes. And for a lot of folks, it can freeze you because there is usually not a class that teaches you the hidden rules or expectations of the dissertation. And you're trying to navigate this thing without a guide, or trying to learn from your chair who may not be giving you all of the steps in the process. So it's hard to piece it all together. But what I found is that for a lot of folks who stay in that inaction mindset, it keeps you just ABD forever. Because what I've learned is that those who take small steps, where that might be, hey, I'm not sure what to do. I'm going to start with writing my, intro section of this chapter. And then I'm going to go get some feedback on it. Or I'm going to do, clean my data. Or I'm going to take this step. Sometimes taking small steps will lead to you getting the thing done. But a lot of times, because we're so overwhelmed and we don't have a plan, that inaction is the easiest thing to do. And it actually feels comfortable. And I ask folks who go to work with us, a lot of times people, because they recognize that we are a premium program, and then they hear about the investment in the cost, they're like, ooh, I don't know if I can afford that. But I always say this, right? You being in a doctoral program now, you have probably spent upwards of $60,000 probably by the time you got into your dissertation phase. Is it worth it? And if you knew that you had a guaranteed solution that would get you done in a way that you can't do right now, would $6,000 be worth the investment so that you can reclaim spending any more money in tuition? For some of you all, you have to kind of consider, right? That might be a great bet. And a lot of times with our clients who work with us, when we help them finish quicker, we're saving them upwards of $18,000 in tuition by finishing a year earlier. But this, again, is something that we have to start thinking about in terms of our mindset around investment. But a lot of us will stay in this kind of inaction mode because it just feels comfortable. It feels comfortable to be where we are and, if, doing the things that we're doing, and to say like, oh, I'm working on my dissertation versus it knowing that, I'm going to be done with it by X date. And that's what we're doing in our Velocity programs, really help folks like fast track their dissertation so that they can finish. Because the one thing I hate, and the reason why we created this in the first place, was because I don't want to see people stuck in ABD, because you all have so much research that can change the lives of the people I care about and the people, the organizations and communities that you care about most. So Don't let that document just sit because of you're not quite sure how to do something or how to move this thing forward. There is support, there's a structure out there. And so sometimes it may take you to do a little bit of action and to invest. Again, monetarily might be an investment, time might be an investment, energy, whatever it is, you're gonna have to figure out and make some investments because that is the route that gets people done faster. So that's one of the brutal truths that I want to share with you all. The second brutal truth that I want you to recognize is that editing while writing will delay your process. And I know this is a tough one, right? Because a lot of you, what you will do, and let me know in the comments if this is how you approach writing, is that today you say, all right, I got 45 minutes, I'm going to do my writing. And then you go to the document, and the first thing you do is reread everything you wrote yesterday. And you spend about 25, 30 minutes rereading, editing, refining. And then you get to that writing session, you got 15 minutes left. But in the back of your mind, you're already discouraged because of what you wrote previously. Like, you have these thoughts like, oh my God, that writing's not good. No one's going to read that. My chair's going to carve this up. And then all those thoughts start to creep in. And then what do? You start hitting the delete button, delete, delete, delete. And then before you know it, you delete everything that you wrote yesterday. And now you're frustrated because you deleted the stuff that you wrote and you have nothing to show for from today. And so one of the brutal truths that I've learned with working with so many doctoral students is that you have to have writing and editing as different parts of your writing routine. And so what I described it as is the producer and creator mode of writing. And so when you're in the creation mode, your job is to think about yourself as an artist. In the creation mode, you're just supposed to put your artwork out there. In your case, that is your writing into your Word doc or your Google Doc. Get the ideas out. We're not concerned about how good or bad, sloppy it is. We're not concerned about punctuation that much necessarily. We're not concerned about citations. Because I know some of you, what you might do is like you start writing those two sentences. You're like, ooh, this is good. And then you go to find a citation to put at the end of the paragraph. Like, no, stop doing that. Literally, what I do in my writing is that if I have a couple of sentences and I know I need a citation, I put a parenthesis because I use APA in a lot of my writing. I put a parenthesis, I put insert citation later, close parenthesis, and then I keep moving. So like you have to recognize and start differentiating your creation mode, which is when you're just going to get the ideas out no matter how sloppy, versus the producer mode where you're going to have some writing sessions where you can't create anything else. And so your job that day might be just to go through and edit and refine. Or maybe your job on one day might be to insert the references. I know for me, like I had a couple journal articles come out in the last couple of weeks. And man, one of the things I hate, and I know I just have to have one writing session where I go through and, get all of the citations in. I just hate it because I'm pretty old school. A lot of those tools like Zotero, those things, I've used them, but sometimes they mess up the document and do things with the weird things with formatting. So I'm pretty old school. So I literally print out the paper I'm working on and go to my Word doc. And I'm like looking at, all right, what citation do I have on the paper? Do I have that in my reference list in the Word doc? And like cross-referencing them. Old school, I know, but it's the, my kind of madness that gets things done. And I just know I'm going to have a writing session where I do that. And you might have to start figuring out, all right, I'm going to have some writing days where the juices are flowing to be my creation days, where I'm going to just be creating the writing. But there are going to be some days where you just can't create anything else. Those will be your producing days. But the trick is that when you're in creation mode, you only create. And then let's say, for instance, you write today, you get 45 minutes in and you come back tomorrow. What you're going to do at the end of today's writing session is you're going to put in a note, a comment that says what you're thinking. And then tomorrow's writing session, you're going to read the comment and then you're going to start writing from there. You're not going to go back and edit anything that you wrote previously. You can reread if you need to refresh yourself, but there's going to be no editing. I promise you, it's a brutal truth that if you do this and recognize this will help you finish your dissertation quicker. But if you're going to continue to edit while you write, you're going to be stuck longer. The next truth is that the dissertation process is 80% mental, 20% physical. And I know it may seem strange, right? Because when I ask people how's the dissertation process going, first thing we go to is, oh, I'm doing the writing. But what I've come to learn by working with so many students and hearing from our clients who finish their dissertation the quickest is that they recognize that the dissertation process is highly mental. Because when you have clear thinking, clear writing is a result. A lot of times we just want to go and do the writing, but we haven't cleared our thoughts to make sure that the writing comes out the way we want it to. And what you have to start doing is thinking through this. And I used to get so frustrated with one of my professors. Shout out to you, Dr. Shockley. When I was a doctoral student, he used to say, I want you all to be thinking about your writing and then go to sit down and write. And I'm just like, what is he talking about? I got an assignment due in 2 weeks. Like, I don't got time to be sitting around thinking about what I'm going to write. I need to do the writing. And if you're in that boat, what I've come to learn now, being on the other side, now 10 years removed from getting my doctorate at the time of this recording, I recognize that Dr. Shockley was right. the more I think about the work in writing, when I go to sit down and write, the ideas come out the way I thought through them. But a lot of times we're not spending enough time in our minds to then be able to engage in the writing process. But I've come to learn that the dissertation itself is an 80% mental journey and 20% physical. It's literally changing you. If you think about it, you are creating new knowledge that did not exist before you started this project. Even if you're contributing a little bit of piece to the new knowledge base in your area, you are doing something very unique. And so you have to consider and recognize that you are providing something new and making sure that you know you approach it in that way where you recognize that, hey, I got to be up here in my head to think through all this stuff, and then at some point I have to execute. You can't be all mental now, because a lot of y'all may be 100% mental and there's no execution, and that just gets you stuck in all the thoughts. But there's going to be a balance, and you'll be leaning more towards on the mental side. If this is resonating with you, let me know in the comments. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and notification bell. If you're watching this on LinkedIn or on Facebook, make sure that you follow us on those platforms. So now we're getting to the fourth truth. That's just a way that you're going to get through this process, is that feedback is your key to success. And again, feedback is your key to success. Because what I know for certain is that those who remain ABD are scared at times to submit their work, because they have these ideas that it's not perfect. And because it's not perfect, they do not submit. And this perfection leads to procrastination, which leads back to the perfection. And this cycle, this loop that constantly happens on repeat. And the only way you get out of it is by submitting your work. Because one thing I know for certain, if you want to guarantee that you do not finish your doctoral program, do not submit anything for feedback. I can guarantee you that, because that is the one thing that you're going to have to do at some point, is to get the document, Word document, off of your desk in your hard drive onto your professor's hard drive. So the more often and the quicker you start turning those things around to do that, the faster you will finish. That is one of the things that, your faculty members can't help you if they do not have a document in front of them. And I know you might be sitting on a document right now that you're scared to submit. I want to give you the permission, and I want to give you the encouragement to hit the submit button. And if you actually do, and you submit that document by watching this video, let me know in the comments. I always want to hear from folks who have actually implemented and done the strategy and done the thing. And for some of y'all, you might be saying, well, I need some feedback. I need some help with this before I submit it to my chair. If that's the case, then I would welcome you to schedule a consultation with us in our Velocity Coaching Program to learn more about how we can help you get to the finish line, because I know a lot of times you may need that extra support. And that's what we do in our program, by providing feedback for our clients, so that by the time it gets to your chair, you've had eyes on it, gotten some feedback, have turned things around, so that when your chair gets a pretty strong version of the chapter or whatever the document that you are working on. But this is going to be important, y'all. I just can't iterate this enough. Feedback is going to be your key to success. If you don't submit, you are not going to finish. And then, again, the fifth and final brutal truth about if you want to finish your dissertation process quickly is that the dissertation process is a team sport. This is highly critical, because the way sometimes we are taught and how to navigate the dissertation is almost like we need to be an Olympic swimmer or a golfer, right? It's a solo sport. Like, I have to perform, which is true, but there is a team behind you. And you have to recognize that as a doctoral student, you have to have a team in place. I recently did an interview on our episode of the show with Dr. Jubert, who talked about her having a team, which included us in the Velocity Coaching Program. She had a therapist, a dietitian, her physical, her doctor. All these things were in place as part of the team. Again, the dissertation is a team effort. So what part of your team might look like is that you might need what I talk about in my book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation. What I talk about in this read in 14 Secrets is that sometimes you may need to have a reality check partner who can just keep you, sane as you're going through the process. You may need an accountability partner who can help you kind of get through this thing. You may need, someone to look at your work. You may need a coach. You may need that support. There is no need to go through this process alone, because the greatest people, if you think about all the experts in the various industries, they get help along the way. And for someone who says they didn't get help, they are telling a lie, because we all get help in some form or fashion along our journeys in whatever industry or field that we in, if we are at the top. Think about your favorite athlete. They have trainers that work with them around the clock. Think about your favorite person. They have people who speak. Like, think about, your favorite, academic. they've gotten help from folks who looked at iterations of, maybe their book or, maybe a speech that they've written. Like there's so many ways that experts get help, and you being stuck right now and you not recognizing that maybe additional help and support to add to my team might be the trick. You're doing a disservice to yourself and your family and friends, because their people are looking at you to finish. And I know you want to finish as well. And sometimes we just have to get out of our own way to get to the finish line. And with that said, again, I just want to share this quick video because there are some truths that I just been like feeling lately by, talking to clients who have looked to work with us. And, as of late, we have recognized that a lot of folks want to work with us, but then they talk about and see that we are a premium price program, and recognizing that, equivalent of what you're probably paying for a class. And they recognize, hey, I've already invested all of this money in my doctoral education. I don't want to invest in support like this. But I always just say, folks, you have to look at the ROI. Like, are you willing to sit in your program another year spending, upwards of $10,000 to $20,000 when our solution is more than half of that, cost, and we can get you to the finish line quicker? You got to have to kind of weigh the pros and cons if you want to be done. And so if you're at that point, you're like, look, Dr. Goins, I'm ready. I need to be done. I need to take action now. I'm ready to move this thing along. Then I would invite you to apply to work with us. You can learn more about our program, and we walk you through on the page about the whole program. You can scroll down and see a video of Renee talking you through all the steps in our program and how we're going to get you from where you are to where you need to go. But you can learn more about what we do at www.velocitydissertation.com. And again, I hope today's episode was helpful. I just wanted to be straight to the point and really give you the honest truths on things that you have to consider and think through now so that you can finish your dissertation, because I want you to get your work out there to the people and organizations that could benefit the most from it. So don't let your inaction be the reason why you are staying ABD. And with that said, I want to say thank you for watching this episode from ABD to PhD show. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, notification bell. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook or somewhere else, please make sure you follow us on those platforms. If you have a question, let us know in the comments. Shoot me a DM. I'll be happy to chat with you further about how we can help you get to the finish line. And until next time, I wish you all a done dissertation. I wish you all the best and have a great week. Take care.